Welcome. I'm Victoria, your English Liaison Librarian. In this video, we'll explore what a literature review is, why it is important in graduate level writing, and how you can begin writing your own. If you're new to literature reviews, or it's been a while since you've written in an academic setting, you're not alone. Many graduate students find this genre challenging at first because it asks you to do more than summarize. It asks you to think like a scholar, to analyze, connect, and contribute to existing literature. By the end of this video, you should have a clearer sense of what a literature review does and how you can begin developing one as part of your path toward publishing. So what exactly is a literature review? At its core, a literature review is a synthesis of existing scholarship on a particular topic. That word synthesis is key. It means you are not simply summarizing individual sources one at a time. Instead, you are bringing multiple sources together and showing how they relate to each other. In a strong literature review, you identify patterns in the research, highlight ongoing debates, and point out gaps or areas that have not yet been fully explored. You are essentially mapping the intellectual landscape of your topic. For graduate students in English, this often means engaging with literary criticism, theoretical frameworks, and scholarly interpretations, and showing how they connect or sometimes conflict with each other. Literature reviews are not just a requirement, they serve important intellectual and professional purposes. First, they demonstrate your knowledge of the field. They show your readers, including professors, reviewers, and journal editors, that you understand the major conversations surrounding your topic. Second, they help you position your own research. By identifying what others have said, you can begin to clarify what you want to say and how your work fits into the broader discussion. Finally, a literature review helps justify your project. It answers the question, why does this research need to be done? This is especially important if your goal is publishing in an academic journal, where contributing something new is essential. Let's break down the main goals of a literature review. Yes, you will summarize key ideas, but that's not the only starting point. More importantly, you will analyze and compare sources. This means asking questions like, how do these scholars approach the topic differently? Where do they agree, or where do they disagree? Another key goal is identifying gaps or tensions in the research. Maybe a particular perspective has been overlooked, or maybe scholars disagree in a way that haven't been fully resolved. These gaps are often where your own research can emerge. Finally, your literature review should build a framework for your study. It creates the intellectual context that supports your argument and guides your reader into your project. Understanding what a literature review is not can also be helpful. A literature review is not an annotated bibliography. In an annotated bibliography, each source is treated separately. In a literature review, sources are grouped and discussed together. It's also not just a list of summaries. If your writing sounds like a sequence of isolated descriptions, like this author says this, and then this author says that, you're likely missing the synthesis part. And finally, a literature review should not purely be descriptive. Your voice matters here. You are guiding the reader through the conversation and helping them understand what is significant. One of the most challenging parts of writing a literature review is figuring out how to organize it. A common approach is thematic organization, where you group sources based on shared ideas, concepts, or arguments. This is often the most effective structure for literature reviews in English studies. Another option is chronological organization, where you trace how scholarship on a topic has evolved over time. This can be useful if you're showing shifts in interpretation or theoretical approach. You might also organize by methodology, for example, comparing close readings, historical analyses, or theoretical frameworks. In practice, many literature reviews combine these approaches. The key is to choose a structure that helps your readers see connections clearly and works best with your own research topic. Let's look more closely at what synthesis actually looks like in writing. A weaker approach discusses each source separately, one after another. This tends to feel repetitive and does not highlight relationships between ideas. A stronger approach brings sources together in the same sentence or paragraph and emphasizes what they share or how they differ. For example, instead of presenting Wilson and Chen separately, you might group them together and show that both contribute to a broader trend or debate. The shift from individual summaries to grouped analysis is one of the most important skills in writing a literature review. To write a strong literature review, you need strong sources. Start with academic databases by utilizing OneSearch or visiting Databases A to Z page on the library website. From there, select databases like MLA International Bibliography, Literature Resource Center, or others that fit your topic. Focus on peer-reviewed journal articles and scholarly books. Use targeted keywords related to your topic, and don't be afraid to experiment with different terms or combinations of terms. Sometimes a small change in wording can lead you to entirely new conversations. Citation tracking is also incredibly useful. Look at the sources your articles cite and also see who has cited those articles more recently. This helps you trace the development of a scholarly conversation over time. As you gather sources, you'll need to evaluate them carefully. First, consider relevance. Does this source directly relate to your research question or topic? Second, think about credibility. Is the source published in a reputable journal or by a respected academic press? And third, consider contribution. What does this source add to the conversation? Does it introduce a new perspective, challenge an existing interpretation, or build on previous work? Being selective is important. A strong literature review is not about including everything. It's about including what matters to your topic. Ultimately, your literature review should lead directly into your own research. As you analyze the scholarship, start asking yourself, what's missing here? What questions remain unanswered? And where are the tensions or contradictions? Your project should begin to emerge as a response to those gaps. This is how you move from reviewing literature to contributing to it. In many ways, this is the moment where you shift from being a reader of scholarship to being a participant in it. Many students encounter similar challenges when writing literature reviews. One of the most common is over-summarizing, or spending too much time describing sources and not enough time analyzing them. Another is lack of structure. Without a clear organizational plan, literature reviews can feel scattered or repetitive. And finally, many students struggle with losing their voice. It can feel intimidating to write among established scholars, but your role is not just to report, it's to interpret and guide. Your perspective is what gives the literature review its coherence. A few final tips as you begin your literature review. Start early. Literature reviews take time, not just to write, but to think through your approach. Take organized notes as you read. Pay attention to themes, recurring arguments, and connections between sources. This will make the writing process much easier. And most importantly, revise. Strong literature reviews are shaped through revision, while you refine your structure, clarify your ideas, and strengthen the connections between sources. Ultimately, a literature review is about entering an academic conversation. Your task is to understand that conversation and then position yourself within it. This can feel challenging at first, but it's also an opportunity. It's where your work begins to take shape as part of a larger scholarly community. With practice, the process will become more intuitive, and it's an essential step toward sharing your ideas through publication. Remember, you can always reach out to me or other librarians if you have any questions.